Video 27, Diffusion of Innovations Theory, Area 3, both subcompetencies 3.12. Review the learning objectives for this video. Now we are going to explore a theory that I think you will find really fascinating. The Diffusion of Innovations theory was developed by Everett Rogers in 1962, and it explains how new ideas, practices, and technologies spread through populations over time. This theory is essential for the Certified Health Education Specialist exam because it helps you understand why some programs are adopted quickly while others struggle to gain traction. The theory identifies 5 adopter categories, and knowing the approximate percentage for each group is important for your exam preparation. Let us walk through each one. Innovators make up about 2.5% of any population. They are risk takers who are eager to try new things and have the resources to absorb potential failure. Early adopters represent about 13.5% of the population. They are opinion leaders whose endorsement carries significant weight with others. In a health education context, early adopters might be the physicians, nurses, or community leaders who publicly support a new wellness initiative. The early majority makes up 34% and consists of people who are deliberate and thoughtful. They adopt new practices before the average person, but want to see evidence that something works first. The late majority, also 34%, are skeptical. They adopt only after most of their peers have already done so, often driven by social pressure or necessity. Finally, laggards make up about 16%. They are the most traditional and resistant to change, often adopting new practices only when the old way is no longer available. Here is a helpful exam tip for you. You might see a question asking which group represents the largest combined share of the population. The answer would be the early majority and late majority together at 68%. Keep that number in mind. Now let us look at what happens when you plot adoption over time, because this visual really helps it all click. When you plot the cumulative number of adopters over time, you get what is called the S-shaped adoption curve, also known as the S-curve. The curve starts slowly on the left side as only a few innovators try the new practice. Then it begins to accelerate as early adopters come on board and their endorsement influences others. The steepest part of the curve occurs when the early majority and late majority adopt, representing a period of rapid growth. Finally, the curve levels off as the remaining laggards adopt or the population reaches saturation. Now, here is a critical concept within this curve that I really want you to understand. It is the idea of critical mass. Critical mass is the point at which enough people have adopted the innovation that its continued spread becomes self-sustaining. Before reaching critical mass, the innovation is vulnerable to failure. After reaching it, adoption tends to continue on its own momentum. For you as a health educator, understanding where your program sits on this curve helps you determine the right strategies. Early on, you focus on reaching innovators and early adopters. Once you have their support, you leverage their influence to reach the majority groups. On the exam, you might see this presented as a question about what stage a program is in based on its adoption pattern. If a small number of enthusiastic participants have joined but the broader community has not, you are still in the early portion of the S-curve before critical mass. You are building a strong foundation for recognizing these patterns. Alright, let us move on to something that is really practical and useful. Rogers identified 5 characteristics of an innovation that determine how quickly it will be adopted. The first is relative advantage, which is the degree to which the innovation is perceived as better than what it replaces. The greater the perceived advantage, the faster the adoption. For example, if a new screening tool is faster and cheaper than the current one, it has high relative advantage. The second is compatibility, which asks whether the innovation fits with the existing values, past experiences, and needs of potential adopters. A program that conflicts with cultural beliefs will face slower adoption. The third is complexity. Innovations that are easy to understand and use are adopted more quickly than those that require new skills or complex procedures. This is a great reminder for you as a health educator to aim for simplicity in program delivery wherever possible. The fourth is trialability. People are more likely to adopt something if they can experiment with it on a limited basis first. This connects directly to the concept of pilot testing we discussed in the previous video, so you can see how these ideas build on each other. The fifth is observability, which is the degree to which the results of an innovation are visible to others. When people can see positive outcomes in their neighbors or colleagues, they are more motivated to adopt the practice themselves. To summarize, the 5 characteristics are relative advantage, compatibility, complexity, trialability, and observability. For the exam, remember that all 5 of these characteristics work together to influence the overall rate of adoption. A helpful memory strategy is to think of the phrase RCCTO using the first letter of each characteristic in order. Give that a try and see if it sticks for you. Read the scenario stem aloud. Give students 30 seconds to consider options before advancing. The correct answer is C. The physicians represent early adopters who serve as opinion leaders. Their endorsement creates the conditions for the early majority to adopt. The early majority is deliberate and looks for evidence in peer endorsement before committing. Targeting laggards at this stage is premature, and innovators would have already been among the first to try the program. Summarize